So this is a call for you to join us in Manchester at the Global Development Institute on the 13th and 14th of April for a major conference where we'll be asking the question, what is the future for global development? 2025 ended with calls by some influential people, Adam Tooze and others, saying that we had now the end of development in sight, as the second Trump presidency was tearing down the old liberal international order. And 2026 hasn't given us any sense that that's going to stop anytime soon. We want to place that in a broader context, though. These challenges have been ongoing for some time. The big shift of power away from the West to the East, the declining legitimacy of Western models of development, at least since the financial crisis, and the climate emergency. All of these have given us the sense that development is in some type of crisis. And the question is, what future does development have in the current emerging world order? What we want to do in this conference is explore three main themes. The first of which is to try and map out the new geopolitics of development and work out what that means for the prospects of development in the global south. So we'll have sessions that deal with what we've been calling the Second Cold War, some colleagues at Manchester, what's happening around the incentives for China to be acting in the way it is, doing the way in which the international order is crumbling in the face of the Trumpian-led reforms, what that means for policy autonomy in the global south. Does this mean that we're creating new era of multiple new dependencies for developing countries? Or does it mean that countries will have greater autonomy to set their own strategic agendas moving forward? We'll go beyond just looking at the main countries, China and the US. We'll look at these increasingly important middle powers, the role of connector countries like Turkey and the Gulf states and so on, who are now highly active within Africa and elsewhere. Our second big theme is on international development cooperation, which is being heavily undermined, not just by America, but by governments in Europe as well. What's the future? Do we see any prospects for like-minded countries to come together in smaller coalitions around particular interests? Is this just about realpolitik and every country out for itself and pursuing its own security and trade interests? Or can we work towards something called like-minded internationalism? And the third aspect is really around grounding all of this. What does this really mean at local level for development processes and communities in the global south? How are the knowledge processes that we need to support development being co-created with communities in the global south? How are these macro level forces directly shaping the prospects for development at regional and city level and a local level? We think that the Global Development Institute is the right place to host this conversation. We've been around for a long time, nearly 70 years. We have nearly 70 staff and more than 80 PhD students researching every dimension of global development, from digital through urban to global value chains, the politics and governance and political economy of developments, and a major focus on climate change, conservation, and green energy transitions. So we think we're in the right place, but we're only in the right place because we've got such a brilliant network of partners and across global north universities and networks, but very much within the global south. This will be reflected at the conference. We'll have representation from all of the global south regions. We'll have particularly strong representation from our strategic partners. We've been working closely with the universities of Ghana, Nairobi, Brak University in Bangladesh, also Slum Dwellers International, and we're forging a new partnership with colleagues at Bazat University in Palestine. And this is really central to what we're trying to do, trying to reimagine, along with other Global North Development Studies centres, what equitable partnerships are and how they can reshape the nature of development studies centres. So we'll be having sessions on this around the geopolitics of knowledge production, as well as the geopolitics of development. In terms of who you'll be able to engage with at the conference, we've got a superb lineup of international speakers. We'll be kicking off on the 30th of April with a session that looks at the big picture. Lee Jones from London and fresh with experience of advising FCDO, will be discussing China-US relations and setting us in context. Before Wenwen Ang will talk about why we should see this as an opportunity of polyjudice, rather than polycrisis, and map out the types of development thinking and development practice that are needed to recognise the contextual nature of development in the global south, the need for indigenous innovation and a new political economy of development. We'll move into a series of parallel sessions before, in that evening, Daniela Gabor will ask us to explore what developmentalism means at the current moment. As you know, Daniela's been very critical of Wall Street consensus, and she'll talk us through what's possible in terms of environmental and social justice in an era of financialized capitalism. On the 14th of April, the next day, we'll start off by thinking more about the future of development strategy and cooperation. Len Ishmael, a former ambassador for the Policy Centre for the New South, will talk through her thinking about what it means to move into a world of like-minded internationalism, whether we can find pockets of effectiveness of cooperation in the polycentric world we're now operating within. Ken Apalo from Georgetown will explore what this means for African countries and give us an African perspective on this. Ken Substack has been talking through these issues for many months now, and will really put African leadership in the spotlight, what it means to try and what agency they now need to be able to exercise to take advantage of the opportunities that the current moment holds, and to hold into account for that. And the conference will close on Tuesday afternoon with a plenary session where we'll welcome members of the GDI International Advisory Board to offer their thoughts on where the conference has taken us. Has it progressed our thinking about the future of global development? What have we missed that we need to really focus on in the coming years? So we'll have Emma Maudsley from the University of Cambridge, Tony Bebbington from the Ford Foundation, also ex-Manchester and the World Bank. We'll have Amani Abu Zaid, who was an AU commissioner, has a previous history at the African Development Bank, and also Imran Matem from BRAC, the largest NGO in the Global South, to help round up the conference and point the way forward. That will be the end of the formal conference, but in the evening we'll have Dr. Winnie Banyima, the leader of UN AIDS, who will lead a public talk where she will discuss the Global Inequality Report that was led by Joseph Stiglitz and herself and other colleagues, delivered at the G20 conference in South Africa in Johannesburg in November. And she'll lead with that before introducing us to her ideas around global public investments as a response to the current crisis. So please do join us on the 13th and 14th of April in Manchester. Further details are available on the website via the Global Development Institute at the University of Manchester, and we look forward to welcoming you soon.